Google is offering free AI training and tools to U.S. small businesses so they can innovate in ways both big and small. Built by Google experts, the Google AI Professional Certificate equips small businesses with practical AI skills. Through hands-on projects, they can start using AI to get more done and unlock new opportunities for their business. This is a new era of American innovation. Find out more at grow.google/business.
This summer, Prime Video takes you back before Legally Blonde, before law school, and into the world of Elle Woods in high school. Set in 1995, this Gemini vegetarian knows exactly who she is until her family moves from Bel Air to Seattle. Packed with iconic fashion, 90s nostalgia, and a throwback soundtrack, Elle proves one thing. Law school was hard. High school was harder. From the world of Legally Blonde, watch Elle, a new original series only on Prime Video. Watch now.
This summer, serve up the Cookout Classics, Oscar Mayer hot dogs and Heinz mustard. Grill up a dog, add classic yellow mustard, or loaded Chicago style. We all know it's not a cookout without Oscar Mayer and Heinz.
The city burns, there's no return, never saw it coming. The crimson skies smoke blind your eyes. Took a stand with a gun in your hand. They sold you down, then sold you out, never saw it coming. You're losing blood, face down in mud, nothing is clear in a river of tears. Proud desperado, where are your heroes? Proud desperado, where are your false idols now? Bullets fall like clay, but nothing bleeds forever. No one hears you, no one feels your pain. I know I saw you in the street. You live, you die, you don't know why. Running scared from something. Your time is up, so
Good evening, everyone. Welcome back. It's Jay Scott. It's the Hook Rocks, the Ultimate Rock Community Podcast. Thanks for tuning in once again. Always appreciate you stopping by. Thanks for giving us a listen. We do appreciate it. We are part of the Pantheon Podcast Network, a great network of music-related podcasts. You can check them out at pantheonpodcast.com, as well as on social media at Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook at Pantheon Pods. And also you can check out the Hook Rocks on all three of those platforms as well. Just search up the Hook Rocks and set your app to automatic download so you get the latest episodes right to your phone. We've had some great episodes recently. We just welcomed George Lynch from Lynch Mob talking his latest project with Michael Sweet Lynch, or Sweet and Lynch. And we also talked with the lead singer of Steelheart, Miljenko Matijevic, and some new music spotlights as well. Pablo Vanderpool of D Wolf, as well as Jason and Lacey from Bourbon House. We talked with Scott Gorham of Thin Lizzy, along with our co-host for that episode, Don Jameson. We welcome Tyler Bryant from Tyler Bryant The Shakedown, talking his new EP, Dirty Work. Rock journalist Matt Wake joined us to talk about the new LA Guns album and their legacy. The new album, Black Diamonds, is phenomenal. We kept the subject of that going with Phil Lewis, the lead singer of LA Guns. Check out that great conversation. We ranked our top 10 albums from the first quarter, January through March, on our quarterly album review. So check out our top 10, which album made it to number 1. And we started the month off with Jared James Nichols and Tuck Smith, ready to hit the road and their tour right now that's going on. So if you're looking to go see a great rock and roll show, go check that out as well. And of course, check out our interview with Richie Kotzen of the Winery Dogs, Rick Nielsen of Cheap Trick, and the Gems, 3 ladies that were formerly of Thunder Mother, this great Swedish band, are now forming their own band after departing Thunder Mother, called the Gems. They've got a new single, I think, coming out either by the end of this month here, We're recording this in April or sometime in May. So be on the lookout for that. We've got another great episode for you today, man. I've been wanting to interview this guy for quite a while. His music, his band means so much to me. It all started back in 1988. I was going in 8th grade. It was a summer before 8th grade. And in Chicago, it was like 100 degrees. The humidity was out of sight. My parents were at work. My older brother was sleeping. And I'm laying on the couch in the TV room watching MTV just as like every other kid back in that time was doing. And about 10 a.m., the video for the song Madeline came out, and I was blown away. I had not heard this song on any of the rock radio stations in Chicago. I had not seen the video before. I didn't even hear this band before, either in Circus Magazine or Hipperator. So I was like stunned. And brother got up. I'm telling him about this band. He's thinking I'm lying and just making up a band and whatever. And I'm like, no, man, this band's great. And I kept waiting for the video to come back around, and I was waiting day after day, waiting for this Madeline video by Winger. And I finally got my paper route money together, rode my bike up to the record store, bought the tape, and just started playing it for everybody, and everybody was blown away. And here I am today interviewing the lead singer of that band, lead singer and the bass player, talking their new album, 7, out May 5th on Frontier Records. I'd like to welcome in Kip Winger. What's going on, Kip? How are you?
Great, man. How are you? Thanks for having me.
I'm doing great, man. It's going to be a pleasure getting to know you over the next 30 minutes. Appreciate you doing this. Been looking forward to having you on for quite some time. But we always begin with the same first question, and that is, just like every rock song has a hook that pulls you in, every rock fan has a moment, whether it's a song, an album, a band, or performance that hooked them on rock and roll. What was it for you?
Yeah, I can't believe people answer that question. I guess some people go, "Oh my God, the Beatles on Ed Sullivan" or something like that. But for me, I was in a band with my two older brothers, and I just don't remember. I was getting inundated with all these '70s albums, because I was born in '61. So, and my parents were in a band. It was all just music coming at me since I was very young. So I always knew I was going to be a musician from the time I was like 5 years old. So there wasn't, I didn't have that aha moment with an album. I had it with music, but I was so young, I couldn't tell you what it was, actually. Sorry to disappoint. Maybe I'm the odd man out.
No worries. As that motivation to become a musician, or that knowledge that you wanted to be a musician at an early age started to formulate, what really came first for you? Was it the song? Was it the sound? Was it just a performance that you saw? How did you know at that early age that that's what you wanted to do?
That's a great question. My mom got me into this Yamaha piano course. It's like the Suzuki method, but it was Yamaha's version. I really took to it like a duck to water. And my parents were in a band together, so they just like immersed us in all this stuff. Like I was in a drum and bugle corps. I played trumpet when I was like, I don't know, 9 or 10, and then I got my first bass when I was like 6 or 7, and it was just music everywhere. So it was kind of, it was all of the above, man. I wrote my first song at 12, and when I started hearing melodies and stuff, that was really like, okay, this is it. But it was always it. I mean, it was strange. And it's kind of, I look at internet now and I see all these people doing music, and you look at Instagram, and it's so many billions of people do music and can kind of call themselves musicians, so it starts to feel a little less and less special, but it's not special to the relationship of what music is, so I guess that's a little bit of an esoteric answer, but I would, it was all of the above. It was the cool performances. My first concert was Bread, and I actually met David Gates at that. And then my second real rock concert was Black Sabbath when I was I don't know, really young. And when I started seeing these bands live, it was really like, okay, how am I going to get to do that?
I mentioned the debut album having a meaning for myself, being a kid. And as you look at the body of work at Winger, as we come to the new album, 7, that's out May 5th, there's a definitive evolution in the band, in its sound. And we all know kind of your history with music. Obviously being the frontman of Winger, you came from Alice Cooper. You have a very, composer background too, and a lot of orchestral music. When you look back at that stuff on the first album, like Headed for a Heartbreak or even the song Hungry, you really do notice kind of your background and where you were going with things. And obviously when Winger, parted ways in the mid 90s, you really went that route with solo work and doing more of that. And obviously now with this new album, what really impresses me is there's a mood similar to an orchestra in the sound, in the constant flow of the music and in the arrangement. Like when you hear an orchestra, obviously you've heard one, but when I hear one, the mood comes from the way the instruments are played and the arrangements, how they come in and how it all comes together. And I get that from this new album, probably more so than any other album that you guys have done.
Have you heard the whole album?
Yeah.
Oh, cool. Well, thank you for saying that. As time goes on, I'm more and more weave that kind of stuff into the music, just because of through osmosis of having written enough classical music to where it's kind of heavily influencing all of my decisions. And it also the rock thing feeds off the classical and vice versa, because, if you're stuck on a chord progression in a typical rock song, I've got, a lot more, kind of ideas and ways and mechanisms to solve a musical problem. Just having done that, rather than, kind of rehashing the same old chord progressions and stuff like that. So, and I try to, even though I didn't write this like as a concept album or anything, I do try to put some kind of a journey into motion, especially within the song, So, I appreciate you noticing that, because I do consciously make an effort to do that.
What comes first for you? The idea, the sound, the tone, the content of the song? How do you build something like the songs that are on this record?
I say this a lot, man. All artists would say the same thing to me. Things come in many different ways. It could be a vocal melody. It could be a guitar riff. It could be a weird sound on the keyboard that gives you an inspiration. And usually what happens for me is like I see the whole thing at once. If I get hit by an idea, I see like the whole template of what's coming before me. The trick is to develop your skill enough to be able to manifest that magnificent thing that you see or hear. And that's a whole life's journey, and I would venture to say that most artists would say that too, unless you're just kind of a jammer where you jam out a riff and like, okay, what do we do next? And like kind of fumbling your way through it, which is not a bad thing. There's no judgment there, because there's many great songs have been written by fumbling your way through it, including myself. It's just that as time has gone by, I'm much better at seeing what I'm hearing and being able to manifest it pretty quickly. So that's a long answer to your question, which is that it comes in all forms.
Thinking back of my own musical journey, because you touched on the journey, I think of songs that were a journey in themselves. You think of Kashmir from Zeppelin, or Achilles' Last Stand, or you think of a lot of the Yes stuff and a lot of the Rush stuff. It's almost like there's different chapters within the song, and the music creates a mood just as much as the melody or the lyrics do. When you're writing this album and you're putting it together and you have a theme in your head of one, you mentioned that it all comes together, you think of it. How do you match everything together? Is it like on a storyboard? Is it all in your head? Do you hear it? How do you get the output? I've
learned to do that all in my head. I used to try to map stuff more out. I like write stuff down and stuff like that. But what I find is that if you just try to exercise the muscles in your brain that'll just keep pouring over the material. I'm doing this right now with a violin concerto I'm writing for Nashville Symphony. I'm staying away from the instruments more and just trying to pour over the music in my mind so I can free myself of the sound of an instrument, which always bogs you down. And so you'll find that if you do that, the best ideas keep coming back. You know what I mean? Like, if you can remember, and you don't try to. If I have an idea that I know I'm going to forget, I'll put it in my voice memos. But normally, I'll just keep pouring over it in my mind, and the best of ideas will continue. They'll stay in your mind. You know, you kind of forget the stuff that's kind of more just nebulous or experimental. You just, you know, like I said, I'm doing this very thing. I have this really kind of cool theme, and inevitably, most of these ideas are bigger than, you know, when you're from the artist point of view, when you push forward, it's inevitable that you're going to come across ideas that are much bigger and better than you are. So you kind of have to grow into them. You know, and so it takes a while, like cooking soup. You know, you put in all these ingredients and you have to let it simmer, you know. And oftentimes, this is what I find a lot of, like, especially like in Nashville, there's like this, they crank out, like, you know, between all the writers in Nashville, there's like hundreds of songs being written every single day. And they tend to sound very similar, you know. So it starts down to kind of cookie cutter. And my objection to that is that you don't let anything like cook in the pot for a while to really let it become what it could be. You just kind of, I mean, some songs pop out in a half hour and they're, you know, classics and it's great, but a lot of times you just got to let it sit. And especially with classical music, you just got to like think about it for a while. I don't know if I'm answering your question, because I'm big on the philosophy of how this all goes, you know.
Absolutely. As far as you mentioned, you know, songs being written, hundreds of songs being written in Nashville, and they tend to all kind of become cookie cutter. Is it important for you to kind of get out of your space when you're creating, to kind of have that clear palette and no distractions, so you're not in danger of writing something that is familiar or writing something that is cookie cutter?
No, I've developed my voice enough to where I could sit in the midst of a battlefield where people are writing whatever they want to right around me, and I could stick to my guns and do what I do. I'm pretty set in my ways in terms of knowing what I hear, not repeating myself, but just I have a very clear vision of what I want. You know, there's no question about. I'm not searching for where's that thing I'm looking for. My quest is to be able to manifest all the stuff that I am hearing. You know, it's very clear what I hear, you know. I mean, by the way, I mean, you either like it or hate it, or maybe it's lukewarm. I mean, I'm not suggesting that anybody should even like what I do. I'm just saying that it's really clear in my mind and in my soul, you know. So there's no there's no debate with what I do for me, because it's just very clear. You know?
Was this always the way you created, or was this something that evolved within you as an artist?
No, not at all. I used to imitate, and that's what you do, you know. Student artists imitate great art, you know. I would write, okay, what is Whitesnake doing, or what are the Beatles doing, or, you know, what is, you know, Reb and I started with Winger, and it was like we'd just keep MTV on nonstop and like listen to what was popular. Def Leppard, especially. Mutt Lange was really driving the boat back then. I mean, he was real, in my opinion. He was a great songwriter, producer who really had a kind of above average clarity. So we would imitate stuff, you know, like, what are they doing? Then you do your interpretation of what the greats, so to speak, do. I had a composition teacher tell me one time, like, look go ahead and imitate all you want, because no matter what happens, you're gonna try to filter that idea through you, and it's never going to sound like them. It's going to sound more like you. So just go ahead and steal an idea and try to morph it into what you do, and it's inevitably going to sound like you. And it's a great exercise for people who want to write, to just, what would Sting do right now? Let's try that, and then it always will lead you. I used to do that when I had writer's block. I'd be like, what is Peter Gabriel doing? I would listen to his thing and try to grab some of the chords and the sounds and go, okay, what would I do with that? And over time, I don't do that anymore, because not to be redundant, I have a very clear picture of what's going on inside my creative process.
When you found, sort of the sweet space for you, or the freedom of creating, more or less, and not being tied down to doing what other people are doing artistically, was that a sense of freedom for you, where you're kind of in tune to the beat of your own drum? It sounds like, you don't rely on something else.
Yeah. On the other hand, it's torture. It's kind of like the previous way I was saying, it's like, giving yourself a map, like, okay, here's the map to get from point A to point B. And then if you abandon that and go solely with what you're hearing, you don't have a map, so you have to really dig and dig and dig to find your way to the destination, and there's always a multiplicity of destinations with one idea. One idea could go a million different ways, so you have to be really clear on what that initial spark and kind of, I always call them lightning bolts. It's like, bang, there's the idea. Oh my God, could I do that? How would I even do that? And then find a way. And sometimes I've done that, and then I've gotten sidetracked, and the sidetracked version was better. So I was, well, that's that, I'll go with the sidetracked version. And I've always said this too, and I stick to this, beyond a shadow of a doubt, all the best ideas are by accident,
If you've ever blasted synth beats from your boombox or burned CDs for your besties, this one's for you. As people get older, much like their music tastes, their health needs change. AG1 is the simple daily health drink designed to deliver over 75 essential daily nutrients and pre- and probiotics to support energy, digestion, and mood, so you can make the most out of every decade and dance break. Learn more at drinkag1.com.
By the time I hit my 50s, I'd learned a few things, like how family is precious. Work can always wait. And 99% of people over 50 already have the virus that causes shingles. Not everyone at risk will develop it, but I did. The painful, blistering rash disrupted my life for weeks. Don't learn about your shingles risk the hard way. Talk to your doctor or pharmacist today. Sponsored by GSK.
Tomorrow morning is knocking. Stock your fridge now. How about a creamy mocha frappuccino drink? Or a sweet vanilla? Smooth caramel, maybe? Or a white chocolate mocha? Whichever you choose, delicious coffee awaits. Find Starbucks Frappuccino drinks wherever you buy your groceries.
When you think of this album, 7, that's about to be released, and you think of where you came from with the last album, that I think was 9 years ago that you released something, 6, 7, 9, 8.
Yeah,
9.
but you got to remember, in between, I wrote Conversations with Djinsky orchestra piece. It was like symphonic piece. A Parting Grace, Get Jack, which is 2 hours of orchestral rock music, and I wrote my first symphony. I did a lot of work in between there, man, like a lot of work. So Reb was touring with Whitesnake. We didn't really have a chance to get together. And so we actually got together in 19 and started in 19, but then COVID just kicked the shit out of all of us, So album would have been out sooner, but it's the same for everybody. Everybody got killed.
Well, my question was, with that last album into 7, when you're creating all the things that you do create and all the things that you're working on, when do you know the sound you're hearing or the idea that you have is a Winger idea versus something else?
Winger is completely comprised of Reb Beach's guitar sound and my voice. You know, it's like, Reb, give me a riff. You know, it's always the same. We sat down with the drum machine. First riff he ever played me was 17. And then the first day we worked, it was 17, Time to Surrender, and Madeleine. You know, like we knocked those three out, probably not finished, but, you know, I remember he played, well, I got this riff. What do we do with it? You know, like, and so I don't even try to write Winger albums without Reb. It's like I've written, ironically, like I wrote the new track, It All Comes Back Around. I wrote that myself, as I did Headed for Heartbreak. But it's always influenced by my time with Reb. You know, we trust each other very implicitly, and, you know, I count on him to come up with the cool riffs, man. You know, because he's a genius riffmeister, man. I mean, he's really, you know, he's written some incredible riffs. And so that's the formula, if you want to say formula. I mean, there is a certain formulaic aspect to any, quote, brand. I really hate that word brand and franchise and all the crap people use now with that. We're a band, you know. It's like Led Zeppelin, or, you know, it's like Jimmy Page writes some licks, Robert Plant writes a melody, you know, and you know, I mean, Robert Plant with Alison Krauss doesn't sound like Led Zeppelin. I mean, you know what I mean? It's like, and Jimmy Page with Coverdale doesn't sound like Led Zeppelin either. You know, it's a thing, you know, and then we have Rod in there doing kind of more interesting drumming than normal because he's kind of comes from the fusion area. Paul's got extensive experience with many acts. And I did, you know, one thing very interesting about this Winger album, it's the only album we've ever done where every original member, plus John Roth, who's been in since 93, played on every single song. So, you know, quite literally, it is the definitive Winger album. You know, it's got every one of us on every song, you know, which is a first.
You mentioned Headed for a Heartbreak, which was a big song for you guys back in the day. And I remember getting the second album and hearing the song Rainbow and the Rose.
Yeah.
And knowing just by listening that there was something different about Winger that was not happening with any other band that was around. Because that song really specifically spoke to me in that difference. And then when you go back and you hear the debut album, as I did, it all started to make sense that there was this melodic, there was this journey of songs. Like you think of Headed for a Heartbreak with the structure and the arrangement, and then into the second album. It was almost like it was this stuff that you're doing now was building within you guys even back then. And of course, you know, with the MTV generation, it was hard to notice because everybody was more interested in what people looked like than more or less how they played. And I always thought that Winger were a bunch of players. They could play their ass off. They're musicians. And now when you hear the new album, it seems like there's been a continuous journey within the band to get to this point. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I put that into the whole career of the band. I always thought, okay, what next, you know? And ironically, there's not that much superly progressive music on this album. I was going for the initial spark of the first album, like the how would I say that? Like the kind of initial inspiration that we had going on the first album, and kind of marry it with the depth that kind of followed it. And but I mean, for example, like on Better Days Coming, there's a song like Tin Soldier. It's very progressive, and there's a lot of stuff on Winger 4 that's much more progressive. I opted not to do that on this album. I kept it pretty straight down the pike. But the answer to your question is yes, absolutely. I definitely thought, I think of the legacy of the band in terms of, okay, well, we did this album, second album, third album, fourth album, then came Karma, then came Better Days Coming, and now this. And so, I mean, at one point I thought it would be cool to do an all progressive album and go, okay, this is the capabilities of the players. and write like a whole album of Tin Soldier type stuff. Because I was really into all these bands, Yes and Jethro Tull and all that super progressive stuff from the 70s. But yeah, I did consider that while making this album.
We often say as people, as we look back on our lives, we look back at ourselves as teenagers in the 20s and we say, man, I don't even know who that person is anymore. Do you ever look back at Winger and some of the old stuff and say, man, I don't even know who that band is because of what you're doing now?
No, because I can remember every detail of it. I remember, okay, what was I thinking when I wrote, I don't know, just whatever song, Blind Revolution, Mad. I mean, I remember exactly where I was and what state of mind I was in, I wish I had known a few things back then that I wish I had taken a little bit more time on the second album to do a couple things differently, especially the mix. But I was quite aware of everything that's going on. Like I'm in touch with the me that wrote all that stuff back then.
As we close here with our interview, our conversation, when you think of this album 7, is there for you a defining song on this album, or is it a whole package? Or what are your feelings? What does this album say for you?
That's a great question. I wouldn't have a clue, man. What I think is I tried to make a collection of songs that is the definitive Winger. It all comes back around, has been getting really the kind of comments on the video that I was hoping for. People are really connecting to it. But the next song that's coming out, the video we're doing, is a song called Tears of Blood, and it's a really intense song. And there's, there's a little bit of everything on it, so I couldn't say that. And I can't say that about any of the other albums either. The only thing I can say is my favorite song to perform to of all Winger songs of all time is Midnight Driver of a Love Machine. It's so much fun to play live. But I don't think there's a definitive Winger song. I think there's like aspects of Winger that different songs represent. Like there's this section of our band and there's this part and there's this part, but I don't think there's one song that defines this album. I'll be interested to see what people think of the whole album,
Yeah, like I said, I like the journey of it. Like you mentioned in the beginning, I like how the mood of the music matches the lyrics and the arrangements. I think every song feels like a classical piece wrapped around in a rock song.
You know what? That's the best compliment you could give me. I appreciate that very much, actually, because a good song is like lyric matching the feeling of the music, and those two things, the better those are intertwined, I think the better the song. So that's amazing that you would even say that. So I appreciate that a lot.
It's almost like a movie that you watch where there's a scene and you hear the music in the background, and every time you hear a song, like when you think of Layla, the breakdown in Layla, you think of Goodfellas, right?
Yeah.
How that piano part makes you think of that movie. And it's almost like this album.
I never saw the movie.
No, you've never seen it? So
No.
like that. Yeah, no, but it kind of goes with that philosophy. There's certain parts in movies where you hear a song or a music piece, an orchestral piece that creates tension or creates happiness or creates whatever the mood that you want to convey.
I appreciate that. I mean, I do want to make albums still. I'm not the singles guy. Like now, I know the business is more like, hey, just put out a song and a song and a song and a song. But for me, there is an album is a journey. Maybe I call me old fashioned, I dig that. And I definitely try to weave that into the album. Like, for example, which song, what the sequencing is, that took me, I went through about 7 sequences before I landed on the sequence that this album has, because it's very important, like how this feels from song to song, So there is, like, if you say there's not like a story from the point of view of being a concept album, but there is an emotional thread through the whole thing, definitely.
Yeah, that's what I love. And it almost feels too, as you listen, for those that are going to be checking out the album next week, it feels like from the first song to the last, there's even an evolution within the album too, which is,
I think, yeah, that's true. That's true.
Yeah. What are the plans for this? I know you just came here to Chicago area this past weekend. I know you're doing some dates now, but what's the plans for the rest of the year?
Just touring. We're touring heavily. So we're just, we're going to UK soon, and we're going to Australia and Japan, and we're doing Tom Kiefer in the summer, and we got Steel Panther in the UK, and headline shows, and all over the place, and just a lot of touring. A lot of touring.
Kip, it's been a blast, man. Thank you very much for the conversation.
Thank you. I'll talk to you. Have a good one. Thank you.
All right, everyone. That's Kip Winger from the band Winger. Get the album 7 out on May 5th on Frontier Records. It's a blast. It's awesome. It's a journey. You will love it. I'm Jay Scott. This has been another episode of the Hook Rocks, the Ultimate Rock Community Podcast. Stay safe. Stay healthy. Take care of each other. We will talk soon. Thanks.
Dark heart, disguise, street smart, you survive, preying on weak souls, your cruel ways out of control, forgot where you came from, you thought you'd get away, you never got busted.